Hey everyone, welcome to the NFL lineup building show for SuperDraft.io. I am Stevie TPFL. It's been a easy kind of week with only baseball playoffs, getting ready for NFL, and I'm joined by the NBA guru himself, getting ready for NBA season, Andy Means. How are you doing, my friend? I think we lost Andy again. He's having
No.
technical. Oh nope.
Am
Hello.
I back?
Yep.
There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah. I said I'm doing good. I wonder how you're doing with new dad life.
I'm doing good. No sleep. Last night was probably one of the roughest nights that I've had with the little one. I jinxed it on the podcast saying that like I was going to get the most sleep last night, but yeah, you don't you don't say stuff out loud that you're thinking, right?
Yeah, I was seeing that you were you said your little guy's a night owl too, and so are you. So I think that works out pretty well for your schedule.
It works out for the most part, but when nights that you want to sleep and you don't get any sleep, like those are the nights that it just doesn't work out at all. So um but anyway, um how did week 4 treat you? Are you ready? Are you one of those people that are ready for week 5 to be here?
I mean, I didn't have as much Christian McCaffrey, so that kind of sucked. But I mean, I cashed in cash games, so everything was fine. Not a big week, but nothing to play.
Yeah, I had a decent week. It wasn't the greatest week. I faded Gallman in a lot of spots, thinking that he was going to be like 40% owned, and he wasn't. So it's just one of those things where you kind of overthink things. We talked about it on the podcast on Monday, so I feel like I kind of overthought, playing him. So anyway, ready to get started here for week 5. Week 5.
Yeah,
And football season's flying by, man.
25% in, man.
It's insane. So, as always on SuperDraft, if you guys haven't checked it out, SuperDraft.io, promo code Grinders. That way you get a 25% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Take advantage of the free money. I'm enjoying SuperDraft. I did not do well on SuperDraft last week. It was the first week that I did not do very well. But this is one of those things where I'm excited to get back into it. I've really enjoyed the showdown slates over there. I think it's a way different than all the other showdown slates, and it's just fun. I'm enjoying playing on SuperDraft, and when you've been playing DFS as long as I've been playing DFS, like just having fun every once in a while is nice.
Yeah, and I mean, like we always talk about this, just the different formats always a benefit for me too. I just like, if nothing else, it just rejuvenates you a little bit. I still think there's a little edge on it, but I think like I think Grant and I talked about last week a little, like it has tightened up a little bit with their multipliers, so it makes it a little more challenging than it was like week 1 for sure.
Oh, it's way different compared to like the first 3 weeks. So I think when we're looking at it overall, general here, you're using more of the like 1.2 and 1.3 multipliers just because there's not a lot of those 1.8, 1.9 guys. And I feel like running back is the position that you're going to use those multipliers even less than other positions. I feel like wide receivers, there's still a bunch of value. Injuries are going to create value every week for every position. So let's start here with quarterback. Is there a quarterback that's standing out to you this week as like your cash game guy on most sites? And is there anybody in this 1 to 1.3 multiplier that you like?
I don't mind Wentz. Um, I like Kyler at 1.3, also going up against Cincinnati. They've been atrocious against the pass this year, or through 4 weeks. I think second to last in pass defense DVOA. So I like Kyler at 1.3. I didn't notice any like egregious multiplier mistakes on the only guy. Mahomes isn't on this slate. I think they're the Sunday night game against the Colts. Deshaun at 1.1 is I think that's a pretty decent play too. So I'm probably sticking around this little range here, and I think I'm leaning towards Kyler.
Yeah, I like him as well. There's not like a standout like option. Even like Chase Daniel, a guy that's going to be, potentially starting here for Trubisky, he is 1.55. Like I don't see like unless I could have missed a 2x multiplier quarterback that's going to start this week, but I don't think I did. I don't really see anybody in that
Yeah,
2 point.
Luke Falk's at 1.5. Let's see what who's going between those two guys yet.
Who was it? You kind of cut out.
Darnold.
Oh, we don't know. Like he was cleared for non-contact, but we don't really know if it's going to be Darnold or not. And if Darnold plays, I'll fire him up at 2x. I'll play him at 2x, no problem. It's like
that
Sam
would be
Darnold.
the only guy I see it too.
Yeah, I like the Kyler Murray call. I like Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott both in that game, 1.25 and 1.35. I think those guys are interesting. It sounds like Josh Allen's going to play, so we don't worry about that situation. If you believe in, like Minnesota kind of bouncing back here, maybe like a Kirk Cousins at 1.4 against the Giants is kind of interesting here. But in cash games, I'm probably playing I'm really debating on playing like Dak Prescott in cash at 1.35 or Rodgers at 1.25.
Yeah, I think that's the general range you're going to be in. I don't see anybody else. Just scrolling down here to a little further up here. Yeah, it's crazy that Daniel's at 1.55. Yeah, I think you're sticking in there. I'm going to probably go Wentz, Deshaun, or Kyler. That would be my pick of the litter. Those three guys. But yeah, I think it's actually kind of bunched when you factor in the multipliers. I think it's pretty bunched for the most part.
I don't think there's a standout like cash quarterback this week. I will say, if you're scrolling down a little bit, Bridgewater against Tampa at 1.45, Minshew at 1.4. Joe Flacco, one of the worst like ever. 1.6. Like, it doesn't seem like, you get excited about it, but like 1.6 if he throws 2 touchdowns, like, that's not the worst thing in the world. But for cash game purposes, let's throw Murray in there going up against that terrible Cincinnati defense at 1.3, and hopefully Arizona bounces back here. Moving over to running backs, kind of staying in that same game. Like DJ, man, 1.3. You have to kind of take advantage of that, right?
That was the first name I was going to mention at 1.3. That I don't see, because like Kamara and McCaffrey both at 1. Like those, like on other like salary cap sites, those would be guys I'd be trying to get in first and foremost. But since there's no multiplier on either of those guys, I think Johnson at 1.3 is kind of the clear running back option for me.
Johnson, right? You cut out again.
Man, what is going on with my David Johnson?
It's been a lot better, but DJ like 1.3.
Yeah, that's who I think he's the first cash game guy. Because I think like the two, and there's a reason they have no multiplier, but the two top guys like Kamara and McCaffrey on this site or on the week would be guys I'd want on salary cap sites, but with no multiplier. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think it's definitely DJ at 1.3. I have no problem pairing him and Kyler.
Yeah, me either. Since he's terrible. Is there anybody else? Like, obviously McCaffrey's just going to get a ton of work every single week. He's not really going to have a multiplier. Dalvin Cook, Kamara, Zeke, all these guys, like your top end running backs, I feel like they're all in play, but I don't know if like if you're going to play these guys in cash games. I think that there's always an argument But really quick, before I let you go here, I said the promo wrong. It's $10 deposit bonus using the promo code Grinders, not the bonus percentage. So if you're signing up for SuperDraft.io, use the promo code Grinders and you get $10. So that's on me. I said the wrong one. Other running backs that you like here for cash games?
I like some Bears guys. I think actually have some decent multipliers. Montgomery's 1.45, Cohen's 1.55. I think those guys are in play. I just scrolled Gallman at 1.4, even against Minnesota. I'm still a little interested there. Like he's just so heavily involved in the pass game that I think you can look at him. Aaron Jones at 1.4, I think is in play. I don't think there's an absolutely clear guy. Oh yeah, that was the other one I was thinking of. James White at 1.7. I really like him at 1.7. That was I think that would probably be the next guy I'd look at after David Johnson.
Yeah, I like that one. Tough matchup for the running backs. Washington, really good run defense. I think that James White is very much in play this week. Depending on the health of James Conner, like Samuels might be interesting at 1.75 if Conner is limited at all. I don't like Gallman. I would much rather play Phillip Lindsay at 1.5. I love Phillip Lindsay this week. He's one of my favorite plays. So, looking at running backs, I like your Aaron Jones call. Did you mention Mark Ingram? I think Mark Ingram's interesting against Pittsburgh. He's 1.35. The carries are always up in the air when it comes to Mark Ingram, but I like these multipliers, and I like taking advantage of like 1.3 plus, especially with running backs, because if I get a touchdown at any of these guys at 1.3, I'm sitting better.
Yeah, I did not bring him up. What'd you say Ingram's multiplier was? He's 1.3?
1.35.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I like that game in general, honestly. Like I had no idea just how bad Baltimore, from just like, I know one of their games been against Kansas City. I had no idea how bad their defense has been through the first 4 weeks. Just like they're 29th in DVOA through 4 weeks. The first or in 2017 and 2018 they finished year third. Like it's just, I don't know if this is small sample, if this is just the nature of the beast and the turnover of the roster and everything, but I had no idea they're this bad. I like that game in general to shoot out, so I'd have no problem throwing Ingram in a cash game lineup.
Yeah. All right. So let's kind of decide on like a second running back here. We have DJ. Is there a guy you mentioned White at 1.7? Do you trust him for cash games? What do we want to do here, kind of with our second running back?
Yeah, I don't know that since it's a half point PPR site, I'm not as thrilled with White on this site. Maybe Ingram.
Yeah, I was thinking Ingram or Lindsay. Like Phillip Lindsay, just the sheer volume alone in that game. Like up against the Chargers, who they've been good, but they haven't been great. Like if you look at DVOA for the Chargers, they're 28th, they're 30th against the pass, 21st against the rush. And we know like Phillip Lindsay is going to get the workload. So I think he's interesting. We'll go. Do you want to go Ingram or Lindsay? I'll leave you to make the final decision.
Let's go Ingram.
All right. So wide receiver, there's a ton of value this week on SuperDraft. We're going to have to see how it all kind of shapes out. You're going to have to probably get it right. But we're going to start with the value and work backwards this week. Kirk is likely not going to play. We know Ross is out. This is the same game, Arizona-Cincinnati. We have Alden Tate at 2X, and I feel like, Keyshawn Johnson's going to be the Arizona guy that kind of steps in here. Everybody has their own opinion. But both of these guys are full 2X multipliers. What do you think about these cheap, I say cheap, but high multiplier guys in this Arizona-Cincinnati game?
I mean, I have no problem playing those types of guys in cash games on a site like this, just because that multiplier is almost like a little bit of a fail-safe too. The production obviously doesn't have to be as good, but it also makes their ceiling extremely high. So I would play those guys in either format, honestly. These are the kind of things you need to take advantage of on this site because just the 2X means more. If you look at like salary cap websites, they're cheap, but like not bare bones cheap. So the 2X multiplier is basically the equivalent of a pump price tag, and that's what we have here. So I like both of them.
Yeah, we look at Auden Tate. Like, we know that the injury happened to Ross. I think it happened in like the second quarter. Auden Tate had 29% of the target share last week. So, 10 targets or 6 targets, just the same amount of targets as Tyler Boyd. He ended up playing 93% of the snaps. Like, he's going to be like, I feel like Auden Tate is the clear cut, cash game option here. And as bad as Cincy's been, I think that this is not a terrible spot for them. Arizona, not a good defense whatsoever. So I'm going to put Tate in here. I feel like you could potentially play Keyshawn Johnson in cash as well, but let's see how the rest of the build goes. Let's start at the top. Is there anybody in this 1 to 1.3 range that you really, really like?
Michael Thomas at 1.1 I like. Not Larry Fitz at 1.3 would probably be there. Maybe you go him instead of Keyshawn in a cash game build. Just take that 1.3. I'd be fine with that. I don't really see anyone else down there. Like Keenan's at 1.05. I'm always okay with him just because of the sheer volume he gets. I would say if I have to answer, my next one would be Fitz at 1.3.
Yeah, I like Fitz. I'm there with you on that one. I think that Stefon Diggs is interesting. Sorry, daddy duty too. I think Stefon Diggs is interesting at 1.35. When we're looking at multipliers and we're getting into these, situations of trying to find more multipliers, Josh Gordon up against that Washington secondary, he's 1.45. Kind of scrolling down more, like Scantling would be very, very obvious if we get news that Devontae Adams is going to be out. He's kind of more on the doubtful side. So, like, Scantling's your other, like, clear-cut, cash game option, I feel like, on SuperDraft at 1.5.
Yeah, no, I was looking at those guys while you were talking for a second. Allison's at 1.75, like, great game stat candidates there with those multipliers. That we can get into a little later. But yeah, if Adams is out, I'm on the MVS train with you as well.
All right, we're gonna put Scantling in there and say that, like, at this point, Adams doubtful. Kind of scrolling down, like, wide receiver is the position that I take advantage more of the multipliers than running backs, just because I feel like if you get a touchdown out of any of these guys, you're sitting really, really well. Is there any other of these guys? I feel like there's some really good tournament plays down here. But is there any of these other guys that you like, more of a cash game builder, or are we going to plug in Fitz here and just go full Arizona stack and cash?
I'd probably go Fitz. I'm just scrolling down here a little bit. I don't think I see anybody else that's like a glaring play. So yeah, I think if I'm building that, I'd go Fitz. Just pulling up to see what they're. I just want to see what
I think the other guy that kind of is interesting is Alshon Jeffrey at 1.3.
Yeah.
Assuming that Djax is not going to come back this week, with a matchup against the Jets. Jeffrey on a non-PPR site, his touchdown equity is always really high. And you're kind of getting him at 1.3, so he's interesting.
Yeah, I would be fine with that too. I'm probably sticking to the guys that kind of the pool we've talked about here with for cash games. I don't see myself extending past that. There's like you're just not getting anything great here. Like when you take advantage of the situations we have with these injuries. I'm assuming Adams will be out, so you play MVS, you play Tate also at the 2x, and I think going from there and you go Fitz. I think that those are our three. I mean, Fitz would probably be the last one I'd take out, and we could have debates on who that should be, but those first two I think are pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's still early in the week too. It's Wednesday, but right now I think Fitz is your clear cut wide receiver 3. But I think that also, like, as you're going here, if we get some injuries, like, there's options. Like Sutton's 1.55. There's other options. Golden Tate coming into that offense, going to be in the slot, avoid some of the good corners from Minnesota. He's 1.65. So, there's other options that we'll talk about when we get into, like, more of a tournament build. Tight end this week, there are some interesting high multiplier tight ends, but tight end, always a position that like I'm perfectly okay taking the high volume tight ends, but it's also very interesting this week too because no Kansas City on the main slate means no Travis Kelce. So
Yeah, and then you have Ertz and Ingram have no multiplier. So is this like Tyler Eifert, or are we doing the Arizona thing and playing him at 1.7?
the touchdown equity is always really high for Eifert, so I never hate playing Eifert.
Yeah.
So he's always a guy that's interesting. The other guy that I'm really excited for DFS this weekend, just in general, is Ben Watson. Like coming back.
Yeah. What are you expecting out of that? Yeah.
I was really sad, Andy, that like I opened up SuperDraft this morning when I was looking through it, getting ready for the show, that Ben Watson was 1.5 and he wasn't 2x. Like I was hoping that we were going to get him as that 2x play, but what are we expecting? I have no idea. Like it's the Patriots, but it seems like this would be a spot where like they haven't been using tight ends at all. Like Ben Watson just slides right into that 6 target role and hopefully a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, I think 6 targets is going to be a little bit of a stretch, but I mean, best case scenario, I think that would be great. Yeah, I mean, that was good, a sharp move by them to not put him at 2, the 2x multiplier, because he would have been really chalky. I think tight end does not have anything really obvious. Like even Waller's down at 1.1 in a difficult matchup against the Bears. So it's one of those things where I think I would, if I'm playing on SuperDraft this weekend, I would probably play Eifert in cash and like just straight up fade him in tournaments and just hope the ownership is heavy on there and just go with some of these other guys in like the 1 to 1.3 range.
Yeah, I don't hate that idea. Also, I think that like you could play like an Andrews at 1.15 and just kind of hope he finds the end zone against Pittsburgh. Not a great team against tight ends. So I think that's another like safer cash game. Like Andrews is going to have targets, the potential is there, but for this bill, let's go Eifert. Like we've been attacking Arizona's secondary all season where we know Ross is out. Like this might be a spot, Andy Dalton loves Eifert when he's in the red zone too. So that's it for the cash build. We're going to leave the flex spot kind of open here. I prefer running backs in the flex on most sites, but I'll say it again. I've said it many times about SuperDraft. I feel like you can use wide receivers in the flex.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just, I mean, you're searching for touchdowns, really, like we've already been talking about. And man, just already looking at it right now, like how good of a tournament play is Tyler Boyd now?
Oh, he's a great play. 1.2. Don't expect hardly anybody to play him over like Juju and Thielen and Boyd or Edelman, not Boyd. So like, yeah, there's obviously you could take advantage of these multipliers too to try to use them to your advantage. So before we get into like a tournament build here, we're going to build a couple tournament teams and then we'll open it up to chat to which game stack they want us to build like we usually do. The YouTube question was, can you guys touch on the difference between SuperDraft and the other DFS sites? And obviously, hey buddy. Obviously the biggest difference is no salary cap and you're using multipliers. So like your top end options are going to be the guys with the least amount of multipliers, where in DFS sites, or other DFS sites, those are going to be your highest price players. But taking advantage of the multipliers, I feel like, is the biggest difference between SuperDraft and the other sites.
Yeah, and one thing too to point out is like it's a half point PPR site, so in terms of scoring, it's more like FanDuel in that regard. But they also throw in the bonuses like a DK would do. So you get 2 points for a 100-yard rushing bonus. You get 2 points for the 100-yard receiving. You get 2 points for the 300-yard passing bonus. So keep that in mind too, because it's kind of a mixture of a handful of different sites when it comes to scoring.
I think that's one of the best parts about it too. Like if you're thinking about it, you're getting a nice mix. You're getting half point PPR, you're getting bonuses, and then you're getting multipliers for spots that you're really willing to like take shots on. So my son loves SuperDraft. He's so excited to play on SuperDraft. So what's the process of calculating players multipliers? Like, obviously it's risk reward, right?
Yeah, like in terms of like factoring in like to a projection, or yeah, I'm not sure the question, but I think like obviously what you want to do when you're doing this is get whatever projections you like to use. Like if you're using Cardi's blitz projections, you like get those and multiply them by the multipliers for the guys on SuperDraft. And then that's how you're going to really identify like some like egregiously mispriced players. And then obviously from that, you're going to see who's going to be garnering the most ownership. So it's like what we're talking about with Tyler Boyd. I think like we're talking about Eifert, he's a 1.7, so he's probably going to carry a lot of ownership. We're talking about Tate, his teammate, who's a 2x multiplier. He's probably going to carry a lot of ownership. And just naturally, since Boyd is only at 1.2, and you're already talking about his teammates are going to be chalky, that's where you can identify some leverage spots, even for guys. Because even we know Boyd can get 2 touchdowns. He can go for 10 catches, 150 yards based on how much Dalton likes to throw to him. So even at 1.2, that's still going to pay off handsomely in tournaments.
Yeah, I think using projection systems. Hey, he does not like being awake right now. Give me some of your tournament quarterbacks. Why I text my wife and tell her to hurry up and get home.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so let's pull up quarterback here. Let's see what our multipliers are at. So yeah, no Mahomes on this slate, and he'd probably be a 1x anyway. So I really like Jameis at 1.2 going up against the Saints. I like Matt Ryan at 1.3. I like, obviously, I think Dalton is a good guy at 1.35. This game in general, I think it's probably going to be somewhat chalky as a game stack, but I'm not sure. I guess it's a little early for me to say this, but I think Kyler would probably garner more ownership if people are game stacking that. I think even Kirk Cousins, like if we look at Kirk Cousins as a 1.4, if we look at the Giants, they've really struggled against the pass this year, bottom 10 in DVOA. People just don't. I mean, we obviously know how much Minnesota wants to run the ball, but we got a little squeaky wheel going with Adam Thielen. Maybe they try to come out and throw it a little more this week. Bridgewater at 1.45. Like, I hate even mentioning it, but I think he's in play. Like this game is in New Orleans. We know how much better they play at home. One of the higher team totals on the week for for the Saints are up at 25. I think the Eagles and the Pats are up at 28. So they're projected to score about 3.5 touchdowns. I think Teddy Bridgewater, I don't think people like him. I don't think people are going to play him, but 1.45 multiplier is one of the higher ones from any starting quarterback on this slate. So that's where I'm looking at. I would play Chase Daniel, honestly, at 1.55 too. His average depth of pass wasn't that high this past week, but I don't think they obviously, it was a surprise that they had to go to him in the first place. So those are some guys I'm looking at. What do you think? How's your little man doing, Stevie?
He's doing. Mama's home, so Mama's taking him.
There we
go. She rushed home. All right, we're good. He's not good, but I'm good. So listen to everything you're saying, even though I was trying to calm him down. Apologize, man. Like, you have these things where. Was
my voice soothing for him? Did it help?
I could have I should have unplugged an ear and like put it in. Like, you have such a soothing voice, but I think the way that you could approach it too, like Kirk Cousins is really interesting. Like you were mentioning, the Giants have been terrible against the pass all season, and there's people to pair him with that have good multipliers as well, that have a ton of upside. So somebody like him is very interesting. I think that Winston is interesting with people kind of thinking like after that Dak game last week, that we're going to see struggles out of Tampa, and like that obviously could super happen. Like, I'm not saying that it can't, but Tampa has so many weapons. Like, they have so many pass catchers that are very talented that I feel like that's kind of where Dallas is struggling a little bit. Like, they have Cooper and then they have Witten kind of. So like, there's people that you can pair with Winston. So let's kind of build a Kirk Cousins team here really quick. Cause I like that one. I like his multiplier. I like the matchup. We're going to skip over running back really quick. We're going to go to wide receiver here. And I kind of already talked about Stephon Diggs when we were talking about it, but Stephon Diggs is 1.35. So I'm getting 1.4 multiplier on Cousins and 1.35 on Diggs. And if we pair these two together and get a touchdown, and if there's a double dog, like we're sailing here.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like the ultimate tournament play too on this team, because if anyone's going to do a pass catcher with Cousins, it's going to be Thielen with all the chatter coming out about him not getting the ball and everything. I'm blanking on who did they play last week? They played the Bears. Yeah, I was wondering why Cook had so many targets. His targets were really spiked. That's kind of what the Bears want you to do. So yeah, I mean, I would probably play both of those guys, just because if you're doing a game stack, I would do both the pass catchers and maybe leave out Cook and just hope they, for whatever reason, they just completely go through the air. But yeah, you're really banking on the multipliers here. What's Thielen?
Thielen's 1.15.
Yeah, I'd probably just go at Cousins and Diggs, honestly.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking initially.
Yeah.
And then I feel like running it back with Golden Tate, like, is where you run it back. Like, where Minnesota struggles is in the slot, and like Alexander's a terrible slot corner with Rhodes on the outside. You know, he's really, really solid, and Wayne's on the outside. Like, we want to attack this team in the slot, and we have no idea what's going to happen with Golden Tate, but I feel like if we're playing tournaments and we're getting 1.65 multipliers, like, that's where I want to attack this offense.
Yeah, that's probably where Jones is going to feel more comfortable dumping the ball off too on those short routes. So I'd also where I was looking at tight end, where I was upset to see is that Ingram's only at 1x. Like, I just don't know if I'm going to be wanting to do that. Maybe it's one of those things. Are you trying to bring it back with anyone else on the Giants? Like, Ingram would be my next thought, but maybe just do Gallman.
Yeah, I guess like you could do Gallman, do Cousins, Diggs, Tate, Gallman,
Yeah,
and just take advantage of the multipliers. So, assuming that Barkley's going to be out, like he's Superman,
right.
The guy, like, already feeling good and stuff. So,
Well, they say 4 to 8 weeks, and he's trying to come back after like 1 or 2.
yeah, it's insane. So, but yeah, I think Gallman would be the guy. So we have a potential game stack like started here. Let's look for another running back that we want to kind of pair. You mentioned James White a little while ago. He's really, really interesting, even at the half point PPR.
Yeah, I just for whatever reason, I'm not going to pretend to know like what's going on in the film or anything, but they're just not able to run the ball even against bad run defenses. So I think this shapes up to be kind of a Brady game. And if it's a Brady game, you know, you're probably looking at James White or Rex Burkhead. So it's at 1.7. Like, he can get enough volume to where it's okay. He can, and if obviously he can just catch a screen pass and go 20 yards for a touchdown. Like, at 1.7, the 1.7 is the key here. Obviously, like, if he wasn't 1.7, we probably wouldn't care too much. But I think as far as tournament plays, I think that's kind of right up our alley, don't you think?
Yeah, right up the alley. Not much else to add. Did we lose you again? Or you're good? You did say White, right? You kind of cut out for me. Maybe it's my internet now.
No, it's got to be me. Yeah, I said White.
That's what I thought. All right, we need another wide receiver. Now they're playing Washington, and Washington is very, very up in the air what we're going to be looking at here with wide receivers. But Richardson, McCollin, all these guys have 1.5 plus. If McCollin was going to play here, I wouldn't mind like making a mini stack on top of our stack here with like a McCollin.
Yeah, I'm looking up. Let's see here. I don't know, man. If I'm going to do anybody, it's probably Chris Thompson, but it's another thing where it's a half point PPR site, so I don't love it. But this New England defense is good, dude. Like, I don't. They're
like legit. They're legit. Yeah. Like,
I don't I don't like Washington. So who knows who's even starting at quarterback? Like, I'm kind of trying to avoid Washington. I would rather go Pat's Onslaught.
All right, well then let's not even worry about running it back. Let's just look for another wide receiver with a high multiplier here for tournaments.
I mean, I don't want to talk you off Washington, but even last week with him out, like, it just didn't go according to plan. I don't know. Now going up against New England, I just can't. I don't love it.
It didn't go according to plan because Haskins is terrible. Like, let's just be realistic.
And so's Keenum.
But I would have rather Keenum be in there. I know what I'm getting at Case Keenum. Like, Haskins was like, it was just a bad spot to throw your rookie quarterback into, in my opinion. I don't know. Jay Gruden.
Yeah, with their best, like a tackle was out, their best receiver was out, like in the middle of the game. It made no sense.
Yeah, like just take your lumps with Keenum at that point. You're already on the hot seat. Like, I know they want to see Haskins, but man, I was watching the game and I was mind blown. Kind of taking advantage of stuff like AJ Brown had a big week last week. If Darnold plays, Sam Darnold, he was really like focusing on Crowder before he got knocked out with mono. And Crowder's 1.8 multiplier. I think he's a good tournament play. I was just kind of scrolling down here to look at tournament plays that have high multipliers. And like, honestly, Tate is going to be a guy that I use in cash, and I'm going to use him in tournaments a ton just because, like, I don't care about eating chalk every once in a while, especially at 2x multiplier.
Yeah, I completely agree there. He would probably be someone I'd go all in on if you're making a bunch of lineups. I'm looking down here. I don't see anyone sticking out to me that I love down at the high end of the. I guess Allison would be the other one. We talked briefly about MVS, but assuming Adams is out, I do like Allison at 1.75.
Yeah, I think that is obviously something that we're going to have to kind of monitor. But Anthony Brown, not a great slot corner, so Allison does have a good matchup, and it's just more volume than anything else. Let's throw a wide receiver into this tournament build here. Another guy that we haven't really talked about is Will Fuller. Like, he's kind of interesting here. Like, the tournament wise, when you're looking for big plays, like Fuller's a guy that can score like a 40-yard touchdown, and at 1.65, like, you're off to the races.
Yeah, he just missed one last week, if I recall, too. I think Watson just missed him on a long one. So, yeah, I think he's the guy, actually. I think you should plug him in.
All right, let's plug him in. When we go through tight end here and look at a flex, if you guys want us to build a game stack in chat, just mention it in chat and we'll go through and build a game stack of a game that you guys want us to build. Whoever has the most votes will win. Tight end, we kind of talked about Eifert for cash games, and like we're super okay with that. There's another guy that I really like this week, Andy, and it makes me like, it makes my stomach already like I'm giving myself heartburn.
Can I guess?
Yeah, sure.
It's not a 2x multiplier, right?
No, it's under 2x.
Okay, I'm gonna go with. Oh man, Jason Witten.
I played Witten last week.
Jared Cook.
You're close.
Hayden Hurst.
No, you're. Hey, now if Andrews is out, I'll play Hurst. That's fine with me.
I give up. I don't know what you mean by I'm getting close. I didn't know if I'm getting close by like multiplier, by the letter of his first initial, or what.
You were close to the multiplier. I really like OJ Howard this week. Like,
oh man, he's been giving me fits. I don't know how to handle this dude. Sell me on him.
Well, I like both tight ends in this game. First of all, Tampa is allowing the second most fantasy points to tight ends. So if there's ever a week for Jared Cook to have a big game, like, this would be a spot. But if we're thinking Mike Evans is going to get shut down by Lattimore, that's going to be a matchup that is obviously talked about a lot this week. And I feel like a lot of people will, say Chris Godwin in the slot. We want to attack PJ Williams. That's 100% true. Like, PJ Williams, bad. I want to attack that. Evans is going to get shadowed by Lattimore. We don't want to play Bobo Wilson on the other side of this game. So, like, we're left with two guys. We're left with Godwin and we're left with OJ Howard. So OJ Howard or Cameron Brate, either one of those tight ends that have options, like have the ability to score touchdowns as tight ends. So when we look at New Orleans, they're 26th in DVOA against the pass. So it's not like they're this amazing pass defense, but they've been shutting down the run a lot. They're allowing the most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. Like, we know, let's be realistic. We know Tampa's going to want to throw the ball in this game. They're not going to want to run the ball in this game a ton. So I think OJ Howard is interesting here. And it gives me, like I said, my heart, like I have heartburn right now. But it gives me like upside at 1.4, where I don't have a ton of upside at tight end this week. So like any of these tight ends that score a touchdown, you're in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna play devil's advocate and just talk about how little like target share he sees, but like you're kind of, except for the guys who are 1x, like Ingram, Ertz, and then maybe Waller, like everyone's pretty touchdown dependent at tight end this week. So like if you just gotta, I mean, you just gotta get the one that scores. Maybe he gets two. There's just, once you get past those main three guys, I guess it's the position is all the same to me. So I would be fine with that. You just kind of chase the multipliers and hope you get lucky on the touchdown.
Yeah, like, even like a guy like Cooper, who's been really good this season, who has that 1.3, like Houston has allowed the fifth fewest fantasy points to tight ends this season. And like a lot of that's matchup driven, but like Hooper at 1.3 is a little interesting. Greg Olsen with the young quarterback, like Allen has really liked, throwing the ball to Greg Olsen. And so like, I think for this team though, we're going to throw in OJ Howard just because I went on a full rant and like I feel like I have to get him in there now. So
yeah, I mean, like we sit there and talk about like how Eifert's the cash game play. Like it's really just he's as touchdown dependent as anybody else. It just happens to be a better matchup that is probably a little overblown, anyways.
So flex spot, is there anybody here? Like, should we throw like Keyshawn Johnson in there, like our 2x wide receiver that we didn't play in cash that we'll throw in tournaments?
Yep.
Yeah, like I'm gonna use. Let's just be realistic. I'm gonna use Tate and Keyshawn a lot. I'm gonna use them a lot together. So like I don't hate this team. We get the stack with the Minnesota Giants game, which we kind of like. We're getting James White. We're taking advantage of multipliers. White, Fuller, Howard, and Johnson. So we had 0 requests for game stacks. So is there another game stack that you want to build here? Like chat is failing us right now. Like there's nobody that no game stacks that people want us to talk about.
I mean, I was gonna say like a Cincinnati Arizona one, but we kind of did that in our cash game build already. So
it's such a high floor like cash build. Like yeah. I guess like we could potentially look at like a Falcons Texans game stack that has a really high total.
That's the highest one on the week. Let's do that one. I feel like that's going to go low on for being the highest total on the week.
Let's see. I got to scroll over here. All right. So obviously we got Watson and Ryan 1.3 and 1.1 multipliers here. Which one do you prefer? I prefer Watson 100%, but do you feel like the extra 0.2 multiplier is worth it for Matt Ryan?
Probably, and you just hope that they get there. Maybe Watson throws a pick or two, loses a fumble. Just hope it brings that raw total down a little bit. When I'm doing this, I'm going to try to use the multiplier if I can. Like they're close enough for me that I probably would go Ryan. Just hope they get behind a little bit and have to throw a ton, and he just kind of pays it off.
All right, so let's go Ryan. Do we want to play either running back?
I mean, I honestly don't even know what their multipliers are at. So let me.
Freeman's 1.45, Hyde is 1.7, and Duke is 1.75.
I mean, I play Hyde in that type of thing and hope that he's the one that puts him up a little bit. At 1.7, I don't hate it.
All right. Well, for now, we're gonna leave running backs off.
I'm fine with that. I would probably prefer not to play a Carlos Hyde lineup.
Yeah, right. Obviously, when we're looking at this game and we're looking at the wide receivers, Hopkins and Julio, they're both 1x. But the secondary options here are really interesting. Like Ridley is 1.6, Fuller is 1.65. If Stills doesn't play, Kiki Kote is 2x. Like there's some really like Sanu is 1.8. Like I'm loving the multipliers here for these secondary options where a lot of people, when you see and you don't have a salary cap, will want to play a Julio Jones against a terrible all corners for Houston are terrible. Like this is going to be a game where Matt Ryan throws for 3 touchdowns.
That's like a perfect reason why this is going to be a great stack too. Because like it's just, I don't know. I think the nature of some people would be, even if you're getting higher multipliers at some other spots, like just the name value there of Julio and Hopkins maybe just leads them to just like reluctantly take one of them. But yeah, those 3 you named, Sanu, Kiki Kuti, and And Fuller, like especially Fuller. We already talked about him. I think we put him in a different lineup. But if we're game stacking this, I would for sure have Fuller in it.
Now, do you want to put Sanu or Ridley?
What was Ridley, a 1.7 or something?
1.6. Like they're both of these guys have massive multipliers.
I would probably do Ridley first.
Yeah, I think the touchdown equity, the target equity, and like the point per dollar, or the PPR value probably higher for Sanu, but like the touchdown equity I feel like is higher for Ridley. And like obviously you're gonna have to see if Stills is gonna play or not. If Stills sits, like Cote would be excellent in this stack as well at 2x. Like if you're expecting this game to have the highest total, which it does, and you're expecting this game to be the highest scoring game, and we don't love the running backs, like just load up on the passing game. Like that's how, and then you could play like an Austin Hooper at 1.3 at tight end and have just a full on 5-person game stack out of this game and have your lowest multiplier be 1.3.
I love it. A full on game stack with this with no Hopkins or Julio. It's awesome.
Yeah, and like it's the highest total on the slate. And like,
yeah,
what type of ownership are we going to be looking at? Like, I think Will Fuller will have plenty of ownership this week. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he won't, but outside of Fuller, Cote could, if we get news that Stills is not going to play, and like Cote could get ownership at 2x,
but probably not with those other guys we mentioned, like the Tates and the Keyshawn's and stuff. Yeah.
All right, so we did get some requests now for game stacks. Baltimore and Pittsburgh is what we're kind of getting requests here for. So let's look at a Baltimore Pittsburgh game stack. You already kind of mentioned Baltimore's defense this season has been not very good. Let's just put it that way. We'll be nice. Obviously, anybody that goes to build a game stack with this game is going to put Lamar Jackson in. So, like, if you play Rudolph in your game stack, you can do whatever you want with this game stack, and it's already different.
Does Jalen Samuels have quarterback eligibility yet?
Right. Those little like dump off passes that reception every time for James Conner. Like,
yeah. Yeah, you're right though. Yeah, I would. Just to be a little different, you get the multiplier. I would for sure go Rudolph.
Ownership and alone, like Rudolph's going to be 5% owned, and Jackson will probably be like 20% owned. Like, so ownership alone, like Rudolph might even be lower owned than that. So, and then like I don't mind Samuels. We just got done joking around about him, but he's 1.75 here, and when we look back to last week, Connor still played 71% of the snaps. And, even though we felt like Samuels was out there a ton, he was out there for 44.5% of the snaps. So it's not like he was out there a lot. Like the guy that I'm worried about the most on the Steelers is like Juju. Like he should be like 1.5x multiplier at this point.
Yeah, that's what I don't know what to do with him, but I think if nothing else, because his multiplier is low and he just didn't perform well in prime time, I think you probably get low ownership on him. Like I feel like if I'm going to start my stack with Rudolph, I pretty much, I don't know. I feel like I have to go with Juju. I don't know if that's fishy, but you tell me.
Yeah.
It's like feels wrong.
Like, I don't know if I want to play Juju in my stack.
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson at 1.7 is really, really interesting. Like, this is the problem with this stack when you're looking at this stack in general. It's really tough because, like, Hollywood Brown is 1.3, and, like, obviously you're putting him in there. But, like, the tight end situation, like, you want to play Andrews probably, and he's 1.15. Vanette is 2x. Like, this is probably not my favorite game stack.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. It's not fun when you actually get there down to building it out. It's not my favorite at all.
There's not enough multipliers. Like, I guess, like, if you do it, you could go, like, Connor, Ingram, Brown with Rudolph. Like, I still don't feel like there's enough multipliers for the touchdowns in this one to build this stack too many times. I don't hate building any stack on this type of site. Like, we talked about it in week 1. It was like, it was a Washington stack or something like that, I think. And, like, it did really well. So I don't mind building any type of stack on this site. But I did want to go back to something really quick before we get out of here. The process of calculating multipliers. my son decided that he wanted to talk about it as well. Yeah, like putting in the work on this site, there's been a ton of overlay. There's still 20K up top, and most of the tournaments this year in this $20 buy-in tournament have been like double ups with 20K up top. So putting in the work, using your projection system, and basically just making a simple Excel, multiplier sheet for each position and trying to figure out where the biggest differences is in like regular DFS and then on SuperDraft is super important. Like, there's a ton of fantasy sites out there nowadays. Like, I can think of like 7 or 8 off the top of my head. I play on 4 or 5 a weekend, 6 if you include like draft. So like just putting in the time on a site like this and taking advantage of the overlay, like, $20 buy-in is not the most ideal price point for your average player, but you can make 5 teams in this $20 buy-in and treat it more like a double up. And like, you could easily build your bankroll where, you're not doing that on most DFS sites. You're not putting 5 teams in the Millie Maker and doubling your money each week, but also like you're paying for 20K up top compared to like $1 million. But if you're trying to build your bankroll, SuperDraft is certainly a site you want to be paying attention to.
Yeah, well put, man. I don't have anything else to add to that. It's just really what you want to get out of playing. If you're doing it to build a bankroll, then this is a great site to do it. If you're doing it to chase a huge, massive, life-changing payment, maybe not. Maybe you want to go to another site, but it's just really what you're trying to get out of it.
The other thing too, like, and I'm not just saying this because we're on the SuperDraft show. I've really enjoyed playing over there, but I will say, like, the other thing that is really interesting about SuperDraft too is like, you don't have to crunch the numbers on all your salary cap. Like, you're building what you want to build, and that's always fun when you're sweating out teams as well. So they have a ton of stuff going on at SuperDraft this week and every week so far. So take advantage. Like I said, Andy, like when we're getting these tournaments where they are almost double ups and you got 20K up top, you're not getting that anywhere else. So take advantage of it. If you're trying to build a bankroll, don't just do it because it's the SuperDraft show. Do it because you like money and you want to build a bankroll. So is there anything else you want to add about any of these other players? I feel like we built we built a really sound cash lineup, in my opinion. Like, that's going to probably be the cash lineup that I end up using outside of maybe like injuries. But I feel like we did a great job on, cash builds. There's some tournaments. Like, obviously, I think one of the best game stacks on SuperDraft this week, we didn't really talk about it too much, but Arizona Cincy, we built it for cash. But there's so many different ways you can build it for tournaments as well and build around that stack with all the multipliers. So anything you want to add before we get out of here, before my son cries and your internet decides that it doesn't want us to do the show?
No, the only sum up I have is I love the cash bill we have, and my favorite game stack was that Houston Atlanta.
Yeah, man, Houston Atlanta with Arizona Cincy. Like, I'm gonna go build it right when we get off the show, so I don't forget to build it this weekend. So anyway, if you use the promo code Grinders on superdraft.io, you'll get $10 once you make your first deposit over there and start playing. So check them out. I like it. We'll be back next week with the Wednesday lineup building show for SuperDraft. We got some stuff coming up here, football shows later today and the rest of the week. So if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get that stuff as soon as it comes out. He is Meansy. I am Stevie. We'll see you guys next week.